Welcome to the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast with your hosts, Jack and Michelle Bosch. Together, let's uncover the secrets to building true wealth through real estate and living a purpose-driven life.
Hello, everyone. This is Jack Bosch speaking, and welcome to today's show. Today we're going to talk about how to deal with difficult title companies, particularly when you do what we do, which is land deals, right? Well, really it applies to anywhere. So any kind of property. Right now, we are in a situation in the United States that title companies are swamped with deals from everywhere. The interest rates are still at a record low. Properties are being, homeowners are all refinancing like crazy. And on top of it, the real estate market is exploding, right? We're looking at what looks like 2005, 6, 7 again, with lots of deals, prices skyrocketing and things like that. And as a result, title companies are overwhelmed. How to deal with them? That's what we're covering today. Okay, so my name is Jack Bosch. I am hosting this session today, and I am super excited to have you here right now because what we're talking about is dealing with difficult title companies. So I want to tell you a story about a few deals that we've just done right now. Like one is closing hopefully this week. One closed on Monday. One closed last week Friday, and another one also closed on Monday. So that's 4 deals that we're doing right now in the land flipping area, right? So one of them was, and that's where really where it comes in how important the title company is. In 2 of those deals, we worked with all over the 4 deals, it's 3 different title companies. So actually, there's a 5th deal. I just remember a 5th deal. But I'm helping one of our coaching students with that deal, and so we just had to jump through some things. So of the 5 deals, 2 deals were done. 4 different title companies involved. One title company does 2 deals, and the other ones do 1 deal each. So of the 4 title companies, 2 title companies were absolutely fantastic. 2 title companies absolutely sucked. So here's what happened. So first of all, on the one of the deals with an absolute horrible title company, it was a land deal in another state. So we looked for a title company in that state. We found a title company. They looked all good. They were recommended by somebody else. So it's like, okay, great, let's use them. And so you start the process. The first process is you send them your signed contract, and they start doing what's called a title search, right? So the title search. Now, first of all, 1 week passes, 2 week passes, 3 weeks passes, 5 weeks passes, 7 weeks pass. And even though no matter what amount of follow-up, the title company just kept saying, well, it takes a little longer, it takes a little longer, it takes a little longer. Finally, 7 weeks later, the title report comes back, right? The preliminary title report comes back. We're like, okay, great. The preliminary title report is back. Let's look at that thing. We looked at it. So it looked like the property was inherited by the current owners, and it's a lady and her brother. They inherited it from their dad, who had put it into a family trust, and therefore made the lady and her brother made them trustees of the trust. Okay, that's not difficult to solve, guys. All you need is the estate documents, if necessary, if the title company wants to dig so deep. You need the trust documents that show that those 2 people were made successor trustees, and you need their information on it, and any title company can usually solve that in a matter of 2 days. Well, guess what? It took that title company another 8 weeks to close that deal, even though in our case, I followed up a day after day after day after day. And every time I got on a call with a lady, she's like, oh no, these land deals are so complicated. And I was like, lady, these land deals are not complicated. They are simple. But here's how we got it done. So obviously the situation is here that we got, unfortunately, into the hands of a 100% inept, absolutely incapable, completely unqualified title agent. This is the first time that happens, by the way, in 19 years. Like I lost sleep over that deal. I woke up in the middle of the night having nightmares about that person, right? So, because at the same time, We also closed, let me tell you, so this deal finally closed, but I'll tell you in a second what I needed to do. At the same time, we closed another deal. That was a deal that we had owned for a little bit, and then we sold it, put it on the market with a realtor. Realtor sold the property. We bought this property for $90,000, sold it for $199,000. After everything said and done, we made almost $100,000 on that deal. So with that said, that deal was actually owned such that we owned it in an LLC. That LLC was managed by another LLC, but owned by another LLC. And both of these LLCs, that the manager and the owner of the LLC, were owned by our family trust. So in order to so they did the title search. This time the title search took 3 days. As it should, by the way. A title search should only take 3 days, guys. If it takes much longer, you got to be on top of that title company and just dig and make sure that they do what you ask them to do, that they don't drag their feet, right? And unfortunately, the way it is the squeaky wheel gets the oil, guys. And that tells you in a second right away what we actually did there. With that said, so the second deal, title search took 3 days. So what happens next is then they were asking us for the documentation. So there we dealt with a highly qualified title agent. So the title agent looked at that and says, hey, underwriting's asking me for the operating agreement of the LLC that owns the property, the articles of organization of the LLC that owns the property. Now, I already knew what else was needed, so I supplied them with the operating agreement of the property that does the deal, that owns the property, with the articles of organization of the property that owns the property. But then since I knew that it's managed by this and owned by that, and that's all owned by the title company, that's owned by the family trust, I gave him the operating agreement and articles of organization of this entity, of that entity, and our trust certificate that shows that we indeed own all of this together. Because at the end of the day, what a title company wants to know, guys, is do you as the seller, or does the seller, if it's an assignment deal or if it's a straight purchase or so, or a double closing, when you have different parties involved, they want to know, does the seller have the right to sign for that deed? Because I could go and sign a deed for the Empire State Building, right? And if you would pay me $10 million or $100 million for that, then you would send $100 million. I would give you a deed, but it wouldn't mean anything because it would obviously be a fraudulent deed. So a title company's job is to make sure, number one, that there's no title issues on there. But number two, that whoever signs on the deed, whoever signs for the sale of the property, because remember, the deed only needs to be signed by the seller, not by the buyer, right? The deed, that in that case, that the deed is, that the person signing the deed is truly authorized and is the rightful owner and rightful authorized signer on that deed. So the first row was done by the title search, right? They found nothing. So now they found no liens or things against it. So what they needed to do is they needed to find out now, does the lady and her brother, in the case where it took forever, do they own the property? Now that all it took was sending them a copy of the trust, a copy of the probate documents that show that they indeed inherited the property and became owners, and a document showing them that they are the rightful trustees of the trust. That's it. 3 little documents, right? Yet this title officer must have been brand new, must have been like absolutely inept, was kind of like doing like, oh no, I sent him a message, and then she moved on to other things. She just didn't treat our deal with priority. So I got involved, and I basically says like, listen, and here is what you do when you deal with a difficult title officer. Right? Here's what you do. You gotta jump in and help them do their work. I'm sorry to say that, but you gotta help them do their work. So I jumped in, I called her, left a voicemail. She luckily called me back because her response time are horrible. The second deal that's closing this week, I'm still, every day I need to send 3 emails, and saying on the emails, I said like, follow-up number 2, follow-up number 3, 4th time I'm requesting this, please send it over. And then she finally responds. It's a nightmare to deal with. It's not typical, guys. It's not typical, guys. Now, this is the first time in 19 years that I have to deal with somebody like that. But it doesn't matter. It's a great example that the road on the extra mile is empty. That sometimes you just got to do what it takes to get that deal closed. We're too far in. We're 15 weeks in on that closing, on that deal that should have been done in 2 weeks. We're 15 weeks in. I'm not going to pull that escrow and go to a different title company and start from scratch again. We're that close to the end. So what did I do? I jumped in myself and basically said, like, listen, Nancy's her name, right? Nancy, here's the deal. This is a conversation you might want to write down. This is a different deal than you typically are used to. Typically, Nancy, you're used to a deal where you have a buyer that has where you have a seller that has a realtor, and you have a buyer that has a realtor, and you're working with the two realtors to make sure you get all the information that you need, right? And then so she's like, yes. Well, listen, I am the buyer of this property, and I'm also the seller of this property because it's a double closing or an assignment. In this case, it's an assignment, but I am actually friends with the seller, and I'm friends with the buyer because after 15 weeks and constantly checking in with them and them checking in with us, asking, how long is it going to take? When is this deal finally going to go through? I'm good friends with both of them, right? So it's like, I have the relationship, dear Nancy, with the seller and with the buyer. So please, going forward now, anything you need from them, send it to me and I will go get it, okay? I want to help you, Nancy, dear inept, stupid title. Don't say the word stupid, but she is like, she got to me more than anyone ever almost gotten to me in the last 19 years. But anyway, so it's like, dear Nancy, you gotta be professional. You can't yell at her because she can cancel the escrow, and now you gotta go look for a different title company. So you gotta be the bigger person here. You gotta be the professional here. And you gotta reach out and say, like, hey, in this case, her name is Nancy, as I said. She's like, Nancy, I have the relationship with the seller. I have the relationship with the buyer. What do you need? She's like, well, I need this, this, and that. It's like, great. I'll get it for you. Guess what? I call the seller. It's like, seller, hey, here's the deal. Here's what she needs. Seller yells at me about the title company because she's just as frustrated with her than I am. It's like, okay, wonderful. But now I'm the buffer. I'm the intermediary. I'm going to get this done, right? So I'm going and getting it done from her. And guess what? 2 days later, I got all the documents because all she needed to go is going to her shed, look at all her documents, which she had neatly organized, look up the trust agreement, look up the probate documents, and look up the trust certificate, and boom, scan it, email it to me, I forward it to Nancy, and then Nancy, you got everything. It's like, yes, I got everything. Okay, great. Let's close this deal. And then we were able to close the deal, right? Same on the buyer side. She sent out some closing docs that the buyer went into spam. She's like, Nancy, have you sent the closing docs? She's like, yes, I sent them out 2 days ago. It's like, great. Would you mind letting me know? Can you send them to me? He's like, yeah, send them to me. I call the seller. I call the buyer. Hey, the closing documents are here. Can I forward them to you? Yes. So I forward them to here. Guess what? 2 hours later, or actually my assistant, transaction coordinator, now jumped in and she actually converted into DocuSign because the buyers typically don't need to sign anything that needs to be notarized. So therefore, we've converted to DocuSign. Send the DocuSign out. Signed. There's a bunch of documents the sellers needed to sign. Converted to DocuSign. Sent to them. Signed. Basically, I did more work than Nancy did, the title officer. But it doesn't matter. If you're getting to a difficult title company, you got to take charge and you got to go basically help them do their work. They can still tell you what they need, but you have the relationship with the seller. You have the relationship with the buyer. Now, that's a rare exceptional case. We've done over 4,000 deals. There's 2 deals that I've done right now with her, one that closed on Monday, one that's going to close on Friday, are the worst that I've ever seen in terms of responsiveness and aptitude of a title company ever. Let's compare it to the other one where we made almost 100 grand. Guess what? That lady, she sent us the request what we need. Now, because I knew, as I mentioned before, because I knew that she needed to have more. I know my own corporate structure, so I know she needed more than just the operating agreement and articles of organization of the entity that owned the property. She also needed to trace it all back to me and Michelle to make sure that we are the rightful owners. Right away, I actually looked at the title report, I read it, it was clear what she needed, and I basically, in the next email, I sent her everything she possibly needs, and she's like, oh my God, that's great, right? So then she had it, 2 days later, she sent out closing documents, and the next day, we closed on the deal. It happened in about 12 days from start to finish, from signing the contract to closing the property. It happened in 12 days. Responsiveness, I think that's what happens when you work somebody that actually knows what they're doing. So again, when you work with somebody like that, it's still helpful to tell them, listen, this is a little bit of a different deal. I have a relationship with the seller. I have a relationship with the buyer. So if they're not responsive in any shape or form, please let me know because I can get a hold of them. Right? That's the solution to working with a difficult title company. You become the intermediary. You become the person that actually gets stuff from the seller, gets stuff from the buyer, gets stuff from whoever you need to get it to because you know the seller. You have been in communication with the seller. The seller accepted your offer, right? You know the buyer. You have been in communication with the buyer. This buyer you accepted the buyer's offer. You can work those two relationships and get the title company what they need. Right? So what's the process of that? Well, the difference between that is a $12,000 profit, right? A $12,000 profit in those two little deals. I don't mind being on the phone, sending an email a day or 2 emails a day, or being on the phone every 2-3 days for 5 minutes with a title company to make sure, or with the buyer and the seller over a few weeks to make an extra 12 grand. And neither should you, right? Now this is more work than we by a factor of 10 that we usually do on a land deal, because typically the title companies are capable and they do it all. But still, for 12 grand, I'll do it. Why not, right? But just to show you what the difference is, right? And then the next deal is like 2 deals. That's the third deal. The next deal was also a deal where just the title searches just tend to take longer these days. So what you really need to do is, what happens is, here's the truth about title searches. They do not take longer. What happens is that the people in the title plant, as it's called at the title office, a title company, they have 25 title searches to do. And they're going to prioritize the $1 million sales. And they're going to prioritize the ones that the title company makes the most money. So the way to get through to that, the way to accelerate that, is by actually becoming the squeaky wheel. By actually calling that title company twice a week and saying like, hey, how are we looking on the title search? Can you accelerate it? Can you please reach out? We need to close on this. We got the buyer ready, right? Time is of the essence, right? The buyer's going to flake out. The buyer's going to back out if we don't close on this in the next 2 weeks. Please accelerate this. Come on, let's do this, and so on. And just become that squeaky wheel so that they accelerate it. Because once a person actually is doing a title search, it only takes them half an hour to do it. It only takes them half an hour, potentially an hour max, to do that title search. But they're sitting on 50 of them that they need to do. So they're going to put yours back. And guess what? When a title officer is closing a $1 million deal or $500,000 house where they're about to make $6,000 or $7,000 in title insurance costs, then guess what? They're going to go to the titles and prioritize this. They're not going to prioritize your deal that you're buying for $10,000 and selling for $30,000. That is unfortunate, but that also will change over time. All it requires is for interest rates to go up a little bit. And if interest rates go up a little bit, literally, if they go up from wherever they are right now, 2.5%, 3% to 3.5%, 4%, guess what happens? Refinances are going to stop cold. And all of a sudden, who is their darling again? Who are they going to court again? And you might want to remind them of that nicely too. If you do a bunch of deals with them, listen, I'm sending you deals, and I'm going to send you deals even after all these refinances are gone. So please, come on, let's make this a real two-way relationship here, dear title company. And if you're dealing with a reasonable title company, they will actually do that. They will actually see that. They will actually value the relationship. They will have a long-term view, and they will actually then accelerate that process for you. Because getting a deal closed does not take more than literally, if it's a free and clear cash deal, it can be done in 5 days or less. 12 days is in this current market fantastic, right? But you don't have to wait forever to get it done. So with that said, here's a little bit of a horror scenario that I just told you, right, of dealing with an absolute inept title company. And obviously now we're buying actually 3 more deals from the same brother and sister here. We're actually taking those deals obviously to another title company, and we already gotten to now a couple of other ones that are actually capable. They're good, they're solid, and we're going to open escrow with them next week because we got the buyers ready for those too. So with that said, that's a little bit of our life right now. All these 4 deals together or 5 deals together add up to almost $150,000 in profits just in the month of May. Now, about $20,000 of that don't belong to us because we have actually helped students get those deals done. But $130,000 do belong to us. So with that said, guys, it's a fantastic May. What are you going to do in May, right? What are you going to do in May? So if you're interested in working with us, go to landcoaching.com, book yourself a call with our team, right? Go to landcoaching.com. Also, go to landcoaching.com and book yourself a call with our team to see if this is a match for us to work together. With that said, thank you very much. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube or as part of our podcast, give us a 5-star review, and we'll love to hear from you very soon and get your feedback. Thank you. Bye-bye.